I welcome you all, basketball degenerates, to another episode of the Pass First, Shoot Later podcast brought to you by the OC Basketball League. I'm your host, Zico Pepic, here with my co-hosts, Michael Van Wyck and Omar Almadine. And yes, guys, my voice is gone. It's cracking. I apologize. We were supposed to do the episode yesterday, but it was pretty bad yesterday. It's better today. I'm gonna go MJ, give it a go, and see how it works out.
MJ had a flu game, not a sore throat game. Pause. But Zico, this is what you get for trying to defend Kobe so much, and you kept talking about it all week long. That's really the effect of it.
I lost my voice screaming the whole time. That was
we'll do majority of the lifting this week. Omar missed the week. Zico, this will be your half off week. We'll do the heavy lifting here.
Is this really my half off? By the way, guys, Happy New Year. I should have started the episode off.
Yeah, Happy New Year to everybody out there.
2024.
Everybody. I'm hoping for a great year for all of us, and I hope this podcast blows up for us and we get, at least double the listeners.
Yeah. More than that. Big things. 2024. Let's go.
So I'm not going to be
No,
able
that there you go. That's that number 24, Mike.
That's right.
Big 24, Mike.
Big year. It's the year of the Kobe.
I don't want to hear this.
We'll be having a special Kobe episode this year, just so you guys know. I know Mike's going to hate it, but we're going to do that. We're going to talk nothing but Kobe. If Mike chooses not to,
that'll be my sick day.
That'll be my sick day.
That would be on August 2nd, 2024, right, Zico?
They're actually doing one February 4th, 2020.
No, but ours, we'll do a special one for OCBL on August 2nd, 24.
That one too, yes. So yeah, guys, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to keep quiet this whole episode and let you guys do the heavy lifting, because one of the things I started predicting kind of came to fruition, and there was a big trade that just happened. I want to know how you guys feel about the trade. For anybody who is not aware of the trade, the New York Knicks said keep an eye on. They're the kind of team that can make some big moves. They made one. It was a lateral move, but it's kind of setting them up for the next move. They made a trade with the Toronto Raptors, who just so happen to be in the Atlantic Division. We will be talking about the Atlantic Division today, and both these teams are there. RJ Barrett, Emmanuel Quickley, and a second-round pick are headed to Toronto for one of the best defenders in the NBA, OG Anunoby, Precious Achiuwa, and Malachi Flynn. What do you guys think of this trade?
I think Toronto got hosed. New York came up on this one. I think they got
you really
better.
You really think so?
Yeah, I think they got better. I mean, as far as this year, maybe not long term, but as far as this year goes, New York got better. Did they turn into contenders? No, I don't think it's going to make them better than the Milwaukees, the Bostons, maybe Philly, depending on how Embiid is.
But it all depends, like Zico said, if this trade sets up another big trade, that's
a big if.
But the thing is they traded some young guys that obviously seem like they don't fit in New York anymore, which I'm actually more interested in talking about those two guys going to Toronto than I'm more concerned about the Knicks here. I know Zico's a Knicks fan, so
I love Emmanuel Quickley. I think it's a great move for Toronto too. I think both teams made a really good trade. So I'm
the only thing is the shooting that New York was hoping to get. I know OG shooting percentage for he's considered one of the 3-and-D guys in the league, but he's a work in progress from a shooting standpoint, and so they didn't get that missing catch and shoot guy that would help them big time.
Well, OG shoots about 38%.
37 and a half. I know, but
44 from the corners, which is thought that he's playing most of the game.
But that's also recent, right? He was not known for that. So that's why I said it's a work in progress.
Well, actually, he was a great shooter last season too. This isn't just something that became of him now. Like he's been developing.
But how many years has he been in the league? He wasn't known to be
6.
that guy. That's what I'm saying. It's the last 2 years they've shown that, and now you're going to New York, different lights, different fan base. Is that going to translate? Is he going to be able to keep that percentage?
He is going to New York, where he's going to have Jalen Brunson and Julius Randle getting a lot of attention, double teams, and he's going to be wide open. So
And
I
if he knocks those down at the 40% clip that they expect him to, then that's huge because his ability to guard is high level, which is going to, allow other guys to take a break. Because remember, they still have some good defenders on that team, and Thibodeau loves the hard nosed defenders. But I'm really interested in the trade for Toronto because Emmanuel quickly, they were lacking that point guard. They now have
let's start talking about Toronto then. I actually, again, I like this trade for both teams. Omar, I'm gonna let you take the lead with this. I think this is a great trade for both teams. Quickly with Scotty Barnes is a great little duo that I think they could start building around. I mentioned that Toronto should go after some Canadians. They just got RJ Barrett, who's a fellow Canadian as well. I don't think the Toronto Raptors are done either. I still think that they're going to make a deal and get Wiggins for Siakam. I'm calling that trade. That's one of the ones I'm predicting here.
Do you think Siakam to Golden State, or is it going to be a 3-team trade?
I think Siakam's going to Golden State. I think the writing's on the wall. I think it's going to happen. It helps both teams right now.
So then you're saying Draymond's out?
I'm not saying Draymond's out, but you know what? Siakam with Draymond Green in a small ball lineup could be really deadly. And Jonathan Kuminga is starting to play really well, which that's the reason why I would consider that trade, because you can get rid of Wiggins if Kuminga keeps playing the way he has.
I don't disagree with you, but then if you get Siakam and you keep Draymond and you got Kuminga, who is coming off the bench for that team?
Chris Paul.
Well, okay, let me finish that point. Providing that scoring power, because Kuminga is stepping into a starter's role, which I think he should have been given more of that role early on. But all three of them can't be on the floor at the same time.
I think they can. I think with the Warriors offense, they absolutely can. With the way those guys move and play defense, I think that's the length that the Warriors have been missing the last few years. If you have Kuminga, if you have Wiggins, if you have Kuminga, if you have Draymond Green, and you have Siakam next to Klay Thompson and Steph Curry, that's a lot of moving bodies and great defensive players and slashers that you're going to have, and guys who can switch everything. So I think it would work very well for them.
So just chiming in here, not so much on the trade, but Toronto overall. Now, I know they made that trade and they think that trade is going to make them better. And they didn't have any of those guys, including OG, the day of, but they are the team that lost to Detroit.
Yeah.
I mean, they're a terrible team.
They did come back with a great win against Cleveland with those guys there the very next game. So
right, but that's Cleveland going, hey, these guys just lost to Detroit. I mean, we've all played basketball enough. You can not get up for a game. And I think the Raptors are that team that you don't get up for. They're still a garbage team.
It's a work in progress. I agree with that, Mike. But I think that this is one of those moves where they were in a situation where they were not moving forward. They were on the same trajectory since last season. They did not improve. Sometimes you have to take 2 steps back to be able to take a few steps forward. And I think they did that. They took a couple steps back with this trade. RJ Barrett's a little younger than Anunoby. Emmanuel quickly is going to be a starting point guard. I don't know if he's there quite yet. I think he might need some time to actually take on that role, because he's going to be going up against some of the best players in the league every single night in that point guard position. So I think it's one of those moves where we have to see what they do with Siakam and what they get back for him, if there's any draft picks attached to it. They didn't get any draft picks in this trade, which was kind of crazy to me. Since, every other team was offering 3 or 4 draft picks for OG.
Well, a fairly old team too. I mean, they got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guys in their 30s. Pascal Siakam's 29, Podol's 28. So, I mean, they got a pretty old roster for a, new start developing team. They do have the younger pieces they just got. Like you said, Quigley's 24.
RJ's 23.
There's 23. Scotty Barnes is 22.
They got Jalen McDaniels, which is the brother of Jaden McDaniels from Minnesota. So those 2 guys are special there.
They do have some pieces, but like you said, they got to do a lot of overhaul because none of their older guys are really people that are going to help them. I mean, Schroeder has some experience. He can maybe teach them a few things at 30, but Otto Porter
Those older
Jr.,
guys are going to get traded. I
yeah,
really
I
do. I think
know.
all those guys are either going to be waived at some point or be part of a different trade. I think that Toronto is going to be the team that everybody's looked to pick and pry pieces off of. Schroeder's the kind of guy that a playoff team,
Depending on the right one, maybe.
yeah, let's
Well-
say the Bucks. The Bucks could use a defensive-minded point guard right next to Lillard. You know, there's other
Well,
teams.
yeah, they're going to need a second point guard if they're going to.
Yeah,
But there's a player that we didn't talk about when we talk about Toronto's roster that, has made noise in the league and kind of went quiet after got traded to Toronto.
Gary
And he's
Trent.
still, huh?
Gary Trent.
You're absolutely right. And he's still 24. And how much is this trade going to, you know, affect him positively, you know, allowing him to find that player that he was, projected to be or what he showed when he was in Portland. And
I think he's going to get traded too, Omar. I really do. I think that's the kind of player you could get another draft pick for, and I think he's the kind of player that some teams will want. His contract isn't ideal, but it is an expiring contract, so I think they could dangle that around. I think there's going to be playoff teams that are going to be interested in him. He plays defense. He could shoot. I think that team just didn't really fit him very well, so I think he just kind of needs to be unlocked in a different situation.
Yeah, I just overall, like I said, I'm not a big proponent of spending a lot of our time talking about these bottom ranked teams. But
Mike, you don't like playing GM as much as we do.
no, fine
oh,
players.
that's
I mean,
Mike never really enjoyed being GM. He always wanted to play on a team and just tell me when to show up. Now that Mike has happy hoopers, now he's starting to get a taste of what it takes to get guys to show up every week and putting the right pieces together.
my teams are always there, man. I'm just fine. We're
That's the
injured.
catch. They're always there. You just figure out how to put the right pieces to get over the hump, Mike. And that's the difference between a good GM and a regular GM and a great GM.
Don't get hurt. Anyways, yeah. So Toronto, I mean, they got some young dudes. They're just not. None of those guys are players I think you can build a whole team around. I think Toronto put it all in for their one championship with Kawhi, and not getting him was the end of that. I don't think Toronto's going anywhere because I don't think anyone wants to be there.
I don't agree with that. Again, I think that them reaching out and grabbing RJ Barrett first, getting a fellow Canadian that will draw interest. The Canada team did really well in the Olympics this last summer. So I guarantee you he won't be the only one. I'm calling it. There will be more guys coming to Toronto because
You
of
think more Canadian guys will come to Toronto and create a full Canadian front? I mean,
not a full team, but I think there will be guys who are going to be interested in that. I think Wiggins is one of them. I think a few other guys will be as well. Just wait and see. Like, give this team some time. I think the whole point of this is both teams put themselves in a situation that is better suited to the age group that they have around their core. And for Toronto, their core is Scotty Barnes. They need to build around Scotty Barnes. And you just took two guys who are 23 and 24 that you could put around Scotty Barnes, and in 4 years, build that team. The Knicks are a little further along, and RJ Barrett isn't developing as fast as they needed him to. So they took him and traded him for someone who's further developed, especially as a perimeter defender, so that they could actually find a way to stop those elite teams, the players on those teams, Jason Tatum, Giannis, things like that. So
going back to New York, right? So we touched on them a little bit and we shifted over to Toronto, but we talked about OG. What do you think, the other two guys bring to the table? I'm a fan of Malachi Flynn from San Diego State and what he did as one of their lead guards there, but obviously he's undersized for the NBA. But he's been able to hold a roster spot. Is he a guy that you can see help in New York? I mean, they're guard heavy, so I think he might be waived.
So this is the thing I talked about in New York, and one of the things that most people won't notice in this situation is the timing of this trade. You know, the trade deadline, I think, is February 8th. And if you make a trade, you cannot retrade those players for 1 month. You can, but only if they're included by themselves in a separate trade. And if you look at Malachi Flynn's contract, I don't think they're keeping him. I think he makes around $4.5 to $5 million right now, somewhere in that range. If you package him next to Evan Fournier's contract, which Evan Fournier is making $19 million, you're coming around $24 million that you could use to trade, along with 9 future first-round draft picks for anyone, and throw in another contract or 2, and you could hit around 30. Which, Omar, I had sent something to you in particular that a certain player is still very interested in playing in New York, who's making around $30 million.
I know. Go ahead and say it.
No, go ahead. You say it. You're saving my voice here, right?
I did that heavy lifting. He didn't send me a message.
Because you don't like being general manager, and you're not foreseeing some of the stuff that's going on. I talked about it. I knew it was going to happen. Omar.
Who is it?
I know. I'm trying to.
He has to go back. You can't remember. It's Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah, it was Donovan Mitchell. Yeah.
And this is like why I said, like, I originally thought, you know, the Knicks might go for someone like Brandon Ingram and possibly trade him for RJ Barrett or put him alongside RJ Barrett. Well, getting Anunoby and having him as your primary small forward, the spot that is still left for the starting unit is
the shooting guard spot.
They're starting Dante DiVincenzo, who's playing great right now for the team. But that shooting guard spot is where they really need to upgrade. Mitchell Robinson is also out for the season. Maybe they trade him and get a center. I don't know what center is going to be available. I don't see Embiid or Karl-Anthony Towns getting traded anytime soon anyway. So Donovan Mitchell is the guy who continues to say he still wants to end his career in New York because that's where he's from. And that's his favorite team. So that one's there. And then the other one is DeJounte Murray, who isn't happy in Atlanta. He's making about $23 million. And
he might end up a Laker. You know,
I think he might end up a Laker too, but the conversation is there. The team is interested in him. He's the ideal fit next to Jalen Brunson, a defensive-minded guy. He's not the caliber of Donovan Mitchell. Donovan Mitchell, I think if they get Donovan Mitchell, now you're talking about a team that is in that top 3 conversation.
Yeah, but I like the Murray fit better than Donovan Mitchell, just simply from the fact that Murray's a better defender in my opinion. He came from the Popovich hard-nosed culture, lost it in Atlanta, comes back to New York and probably can easily adapt to the Thibodeau system versus Donovan Mitchell hasn't really had those type of coaches. Plus, you're still talking about your 2 main guys are Jalen Brunson and Julius Randle. I'm not saying Donovan Mitchell is not better than them, but who's going to take the seat as the third option here? And it could be different games. I get it. I'm not saying, but at the end of the day, you're talking about 2 guys that are currently right now think they're the alpha males of the team. Donovan has always thought he was the alpha male. You bring them to a team here, how's that chemistry going to work? Versus Murray has really never been the alpha male. So he'll fit in differently. In my opinion, he was a better fit.
Mike, how do you feel about that? How do you feel about guys gelling with someone coming in and being the number 1 option as opposed to them staying the number 1 option?
Yeah, I'm leaning more towards what Omar's thinking here with as far as Donovan Mitchell. I mean, there's certain guys who they can come in and they can be that number 1 guy, and they already know they're that number 1 guy wherever they're going. I mean, Giannis, you put Giannis on almost any team in the league, he's your go-to guy. Even Damian Lillard went to Milwaukee knowing that, okay,
it's Giannis's team.
Yes. But a guy like Donovan Mitchell, there's a lot of teams he could go to where he's not the man. He's not the guy you're going to give the ball to every time. There's very few players who go to a team, fit in right away, and are just, okay, we got this guy. He's going to be our guy. I just don't think there's many players like that. And Donovan Mitchell going in, and if he has that mindset where, okay, everything's running through me now, that's not going to work for Julius Randle because he left the Lakers and has been the guy in New York. Jalen Brunson came.
And he's the smallest my guy out of all of them, so it might ruin Julius Randle.
And that's why I think I agree. Murray's going to be a better fit because Murray knows wherever he's going, he is a role player. He's not going to try to be the offense. He's not going to try and be the guy. So I think he does fit that role, especially in New York, the way New York plays, the way Tibbs coaches. It's more of a team-minded ad. It's not, all right, we're running everything through this guy. All the plays are drawn up for this guy. It's play defense, run an offense. The offense will allow us what we get. We're going to go inside. We're going to play physical. And I think you still need that to be Julius Randle. I don't think Mitchell's going to come in seamlessly and say, all right, New York, we're the best team now. It's not going to happen. In real life, I don't think Murray's going to make them much better either. I still think that's going to come down to Boston, Philly, Milwaukee.
For the most part, I agree with you guys. I think Murray is a better fit. I think Mitchell, their ceiling would be higher with Mitchell. And I don't think it would necessarily be an issue with them just because of how I saw Mitchell fit in Cleveland next to Evan Mobley and Darius Garland. When all three of those guys were playing, that team was very solid. There wasn't any offensive issues. There was defensive issues, but I thought that was more of a system issue as opposed to player issue because I saw them competing. So I think it could work. I don't think it'd be an issue. And winning solves a lot in terms of guys being happy or not. I think if you put a team together and you guys move further ahead, whether it be the Eastern Conference Finals or possibly heading to the finals, it changes a lot for a lot of teams. So
yeah, but
I agree with Mike. I don't know if that beats Boston. I think that beats Milwaukee though.
But neither of those guys in Cleveland were comparable to what Donovan Mitchell brings. And Donovan Mitchell went to Cleveland knowing I'm the guy.
He's the guy, and
he's not that.
You could tell that by the number of shots he puts up.
Yeah,
I mean, just look at the number of shots that he puts up. He's not getting those same shots up in New York with Julius Randle and Jalen Brunson.
Well, if you go back and look at RJ Barrett's shooting, he was shooting just as much as both of them, and I think that was part of the reason they wanted to trade him.
That's why he's gone.
He was no. He was shooting. He was getting those opportunities. However, he was really inefficient with the shooting, especially his 2-point field goal percentage. It was really bad. I think I saw a stat earlier where he had some of the most missed layups inside of like 3 feet in the NBA last year. It was on the same trajectory this year. So I think those shot attempts are there, especially when you consider the rest of the team. Like OG is a catch and shoot type of player. Mitchell Robinson is like throw a lob, I'm going to dunk it. Isaiah Hartenstein's, just more of a passing big than anything. Josh Hart slashing, Dante DiVincenzo catch and shoot. So if you look at the rest of the roster, I think it could work. I think it just depends on the system and how it would work. I agree with you. I think Murray would be ideal for that team. I think the way he plays defense, him next to Brunson and Randle would be ideal. I still don't think that beats Boston, but it might get you in the conversation of beating Milwaukee and Philadelphia.
Well, and for all those things you just said, that's why you don't want to bring in a Mitchell, because then ball movement stops. He's a guy who wants the ball. He's a guy who wants to set up other guys. It's like comparing Klay Thompson to James Harden. Klay Thompson's going to move off ball. He's going to go and he's going to take the shots that develop for him. James Harden wants to develop everything. And that's not that Donovan Mitchell pounds the ball like Harden, but he's definitely not going to be he's not going to be a catch and shoot guy like any of these other guys.
Just to follow up on Zico's comment here, actually, statistically, Donovan Mitchell takes 7 more shots a game than RJ Barrett did. That's a big difference.
Right. Which
percentage-wise is 42-45. They're not that far off. But again, we're talking about a high volume shooter versus, the other guys. But either way, I think New York right now probably got the better end of the deal. But if RJ Barrett finds, you know, second life or second wind being home in Toronto, and he's probably gonna, have the fan base and the family support and everybody being that he's from Canada, and Emmanuel quickly fills in as that starting point guard. I mean, Toronto, you know, we'll have two good young players to build off of. But I think in today, New York probably won that trade for instant results.
Let's talk about the second weakest team in the division. I think it's the strongest division in the East, obviously.
So really quick, Mike, before you do that, I do want to point out one other thing in the topic of New York and Toronto. Did either of you watch their games with the new players yesterday?
No.
Highlights at least.
I saw box scores.
Both teams won. OG did foul out. However, he absolutely was a pest to Ant-Man, Anthony Edwards. Anthony Edwards did all his damage as soon as Anunoby came out of the game. Whoever else was guarding him, he destroyed him. Second Anunoby was guarding him, he locked him up. And you kind of look at those shot attempts. Julius Randle, 39 points. Jalen Brunson had a little off night, but he had 14 assists. Anunoby had 17 points. But they were missing a third guy who can create. Losing quickly will hurt them. So we talked about like the effect of now. This is why I said the Knicks aren't done. They're going to make another move. It's probably going to be for another creator, whether it be DeJounte Murray, Donovan Mitchell, or some of the other guys that were mentioned, which Omar and I talked about, DeMar DeRozan and LaMelo Ball.
I don't think you bring in LaMelo with Jalen Brunson. But maybe. What happened on the Zach LaVine trade rumors? Where's he going?
I think he's
I mean,
going.
he's also rumored to potentially get moved to New York too, because he's that shooting guard that fills that empty slot for them. So it's going to be interesting what happens.
All right, your time to shine, Omar. Tell us about Brooklyn, your hidden secret.
Oh, I mean, just that I made a comment that I am a Brooklyn fan. I mean, I'm still a Laker fan first, so let's make that clear. But I'm a Brooklyn fan. This goes back into the days of Darren Williams. D Will was my guy, and so the Brooklyn Nets. I became a fan of them. But that team is young. That team is young. They still don't have a real identity. I would say Jack Vaughn does a hell of a job having those guys compete. But they're a very young team. I know they have some vets. But then again, I think they need a. They're not going to compete in that division the way they're assembled right now. I can admit that. But I just like young teams that compete, that play with a chip on their shoulder, But to be honest, if Mikal Bridges is your team leader and is your go-to, I mean, you're in trouble.
Yeah, so they got 3 guys at 30 and everyone else is 27 or younger. The real question is Ben Simmons. What do you do with Ben Simmons? I mean, the guy's on your roster is $37.8 million and he does not play basketball.
They need to do to Ben Simmons what the Lakers did to Ron Artest and other players. Just take that L on the salary cap and just let him go. Or do what they did with Luol Deng and just pay the guy his salary over the next 6-7 years and just move on from him. He's a wasted roster spot. I mean, I think there's only one player that can say that dated a Jenner that hasn't struggled, and that's Devin Booker. But whenever you date that family, all things go wrong.
That's back to that conspiracy theory episode Zico wants to do. But no, real life, does Ben Simmons play another minute in the NBA?
Yes, he will. He will play another minute in the NBA, but I don't see them waiving him. He is making, like Omar said, $37.8 million. I think they're going to wait till he's in the last year of his contract and try and trade him for as an expiring contract for someone. That's how you can get a star. They could even try and trade him to the Bulls to get Zach LaVine. I don't know how much that changes. But if you throw Ben Simmons and draft picks, maybe the Bulls bite since they're not getting anything else right now. You might have to attach the young guys on that trade as well that they have. So
problem is he has 40 million on the books for next year too. So
LaVine has 40 something million for the next like 3
no,
years.
no, no, I know, but the thing is, we're talking about Ben Simmons. That's not an equal trade. Zach LaVine for Ben Simmons, and no matter what you add with, like you said, you're gonna have to get rid of some of your core young players to get a Zach LaVine type guy. But again, even if you talk about does Ben Simmons fit in Chicago? No.
Well, can Ben Simmons get anywhere near the potential that people thought he would be? I mean, can he get back and play, get out of his head, and just play basketball to people's expectations of him?
Well, that's a good question, Mike. And you know what? We're not gonna downplay mental health is an issue, and we really don't know what's going on with that young man. But it's been several years that we keep seeing this news that he's going to be better. He's going to find it again, and then here we are again. We're having the same. It's a rotating.
Well, but now, I mean, so then do you think his current injury is a real injury, or do you think it's more related to that headspace that he's missing?
You know what? I can't even speak on it because I could be completely out of line for saying something foul or something about another individual. But again, you know we've seen his storylines, we've seen the excuses, we've seen the questionable decisions or things, and I just don't know. I mean, he hasn't played since November 6th, right?
Yep,
and
be reevaluated tomorrow.
Well, let's see what happens tomorrow, and then we'll go from there. But then again, is he going to make that team better? I don't think so. I don't think his impact, even though he could fill up the stat sheet, I don't think his impact is that significant to get them from being one of the worst teams in that division. You know what I'm saying?
So they're the ninth seed right now in the Eastern Conference, so they're in the play-in. Do they stay in that play-in? I don't think any one of us is going to sit here and say that they're going to rise above the play-in. But I mean, if you look at it for the Knicks, who we just talked about, same division, they're the 8th seed. But there's a 3.5 game gap between 8 and 9. I mean, that's kind of how the East is going to be. Big jumps at each level where you have 3 teams, right?
But we still haven't hit the All-Star break, so a lot of things can change.
Right. There's going to be trades. We know rosters are going to get shaken up. We know there's going to be changes. But as they are right now, can they get above if Ben Simmons comes back and plays and is healthy and plays to what we see in off-season Instagram videos?
I don't think so, Mike.
No,
I don't think he do.
I think he can be a really serviceable defensive type player for a team, preferably off the bench if it were up to me. Like him as a backup 3/4 man would be great. Example, like on a team like Denver, surrounded by shooters. Like think about him coming in for Aaron Gordon to go chase someone, one of the bigger forwards around. I think he could be.
Yeah, but then he won't stretch the floor like Aaron Gordon does.
Right, but he'd also
Michael Porter Jr.
He'd also like the thought process would be you have Michael Porter Jr. and Jamal Murray and KCP on the wings where he could kick it out to for open shooters to spread the floor from to slash.
Which I think if he goes to Golden State,
that's the other situation that I was thinking of.
Golden State might be a better ideal fit for him, just from the simple fact that
those situations are ideal for him.
And I'm going to sit here and agree with both of you. Both of those situations are ideal, but not at $38 million.
I agree.
Agree.
Neither
Yeah,
one of them.
I think they're going to sit on his contract, wait till the last year, try and use it unless they can get it for Zach LaVine. Maybe they give, the Bulls 5 first-round draft picks and you know, they have one other young guy on the team, Omar. I can't remember. He's in his third year. He's a high volume shooter. He's a shooting guard for the team. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. I could look at the roster if you want right now.
You talk about Cam Thomas?
Yeah. So like maybe that's enough to get Zach LaVine. I don't think it is. I think there's other deals that might be on the table that are better fitting, but that's the only situation I can see him getting out of Brooklyn other than waiting till his last year and then going to another team. Which in that situation, I think that'll kind of tell you where he's really at. Was it a mental situation? And you'll kind of see how he approaches it. If he goes to a team like Denver or Golden State or whatever teams in that situation, let's say Sacramento, where they're the next big thing and they have a bunch of shooters all around. If he picks a team like that and you see he's going because it's best for him, as opposed to, a financial situation, I think that'll kind of tell us where he was this whole time.
Well, I mean, he still had value in the Philly trade to Brooklyn, right? So they still had hope. So there might be another team that still might have hope in them.
Years ago was that? I mean, when's the last time he played meaningful basketball?
He played pretty well last season, Mike. Defensively for the team, he played very solid basketball.
But you're in the NBA, you have to be at least an offensive threat.
Yeah.
Pass up layups. You're gonna pass the ball every time you get it.
If you're 6'10" and you can pass with the ability that he can pass, and he's surrounded about the right guys, which I think OKC is probably not for 37 million, like we talked about. But OKC, I can see him being that replacement for Draymond Green. He doesn't bring the defensive intensity that Draymond brought, but that's your point forward of a guy that we know really couldn't shoot, right? Draymond was not that shooter that you relied heavily on.
But he could hit a shot. That's the difference.
Well, he could hit a shot, yes, but then again, Draymond couldn't take you off the dribble that Ben Simmons can at 6'10". You know what I'm saying? So I think surrounded about the right type of players. But I mean, I think we talked about Brooklyn enough where I think they'll drop before they move up, no matter what happens, unless they get significant trades done, which I don't see it happening, because I think there's a chance that Toronto could, have better output after this trade.
I think they need to do what Toronto did. I think they need to decide, let's take 2 steps back so that we can move 2 steps forward. And I think they need to trade.
Well, you see they did that, right? With the so-called exhibition game that people thought that Jack Vaughn had to defend his decision of not playing certain players. So you could tell Brooklyn is a little dysfunctional in a sense.
But at the same time, Omar, if I'm thinking playoff teams, okay? Like Lakers are one of them, Denver Nuggets are one of them, Golden State's one of them, New York's one of them. They have some names here that are really interesting for playoff teams. Sacramento as well. Dorian Finney-Smith, combo forward, who is a good defensive guy, who's a good corner 3-point shooter on a respectable contract. Royce O'Neal, same situation, 6'8" forward, plays defense. Okay. They have guys, Spencer Dinwiddie, combo point guard who is good veteran, could come off the bench and give you a really big explosion of offense. They have these players that are going to be interesting. I think they should trade all of them, get whatever picks they can, and
if I was Golden State, I would try to get Spencer Dinwiddie. Problem is he has a $20 million contract this year, but he's not on the books for next year. If you're looking at a last run, well, that's what I'm saying. Spencer Dinwiddie and Golden State, in my opinion, it will give you a better version of what Sean Livingston was for them.
That's a really good comparison. Honestly, I like that. I agree with that.
And so if I was Golden State right now, I'll see a way to get Spencer Dinwiddie.
I
that
will
could help them.
I will throw one more name out there who just makes me think the same vibes, and he's kind of in no man's land right now. Malcolm Brogdon. I feel bad for him out in Portland. He's a really good backup point guard. He's the kind of guy that would fit really well on a bunch of teams. I hope he kind of gets traded to one of those playoff teams as well.
Well, since you brought up Malcolm Brogdon, let's talk about his former team, Boston.
We lost tonight, so I'm happy.
So we talk about Boston, and Boston lost to OKC.
That's
and
right.
I'm telling you,
great game.
SGA is special.
He is. I agree. He is special. I think that team is special, though.
I mean, of course, they are very special. I mean, they do got Giddy on there. There's a special talent there. But
explain to the listeners, Omar, what that special talent is.
Please don't. Please don't. Please don't explain Giddy's.
They got great judgment of character. But the team in general, we already talked about them. They're young and very talented, but again, to beat a team like Boston, especially, looking at the box score, you had Jason Tatum finish with 30, Kristaps Porzingis finished with 34. Jaylen Brown had a bad shooting game, and I don't know, and that had to play a big factor.
He had a pretty good defensive guy on him tonight. Lugens Dort.
Yeah, definitely, and it showed with his numbers: 4 for 18, 0 for 8 from 3. Finished with 15 points, so definitely that had to play a factor because this was a close one. This was a close one. It was a 2-possession game. But going back to Boston, I think Boston is still, as a Laker fan, I still think right now they're still the team to beat in the East. The way they're playing,
they're absolutely the team to beat in the NBA right now. But there's a few things about them that are starting to show, which I think could be exploited in a 7-game series. And I think that they have to address come the trade deadline or free agent signings for players that are waived. They do not have a bench. In fact, their bench is horrible. Aside from Peyton Pritchard and Al Horford, it's tough to watch. The second they start putting subs in, teams have the opportunity to come back. And like I said, Porzingis is the kind of guy who has had health issues in the past.
Mm-hmm.
He has one playoff series with injuries, and you have Al Horford as your only big man. I'm sorry, Luke Cornett.
He's 37.
Right. Then I'm not scared of Boston at all. Like Porzingis on a wobbly knee is not scaring me anymore. So they really need to address some of their depth.
Well, I think the problem is I think it has to do with their coaching here. They have a great coach, don't get me wrong, but I think he hasn't taken advantage of a full season of getting some of their younger players the confidence and having them get the minutes under their belt. I mean,
which ones?
I mean, you have O'Shea Brissett, which is a good young player. You have JD Davidson, who's a great guard that's playing in the G League. That's but you're talking about finding depth, right? We're not talking about guys that are going to come in.
Yeah,
and
but I'm talking about finding depth not during the season. I'm talking about in a playoff situation.
Well, how do you get prepared for the playoffs if you're not getting any burn during an 82-game season?
Look, one of the reasons I'm not as high on Denver this season is because they lost some of their depth that they had last season. Who's the guy that went to Indiana?
Bruce Brown.
Bruce Brown left, and now they want Braun to be the 6th man on that team. And Braun is a second-year player, and he played great last year in the playoffs in spot minutes. But to have him be your 6th man as opposed to having Bruce Brown is a huge difference. And I think that's the same situation you're looking at right now. Peyton Pritchard and Al Horford coming off the bench in the 7-man deep roster in the playoffs could be exploited, especially if, again, Porzingis is injured or one of those guys gets in foul trouble. So I'm just saying Boston needs to address this, and I think they will. Boston's the kind of place where I could absolutely see a few guys getting waived, veteran players getting waived, saying, hey, I can go over there and be the eighth man on their team and play meaningful minutes in the playoff series and win a title. So
Well, I think trading Jaylen Brown for some extra pieces could be a difference maker for them.
no,
Definitely not. They're not trading them. If they haven't
Well,
traded, they're not trading them now. But
yeah,
guys,
well, but he's been in trade rumors before, so this
every
is the season that where if they're going to pull,
he was in trade rumors because they were worried that he might want to leave in free agency, and they just gave him a monster contract. He's not going anywhere.
which
guys,
I think is an overrated contract in my opinion.
we're still talking about a team that's 16-0 at home, 15-1 when they have all 5 starters healthy. So we're talking a lot of ifs. Obviously, there's a lot of history with Porzingis, but if they remain healthy, they don't get beat. And if they're the 1 seed, like they are currently, and they
But Mike,
go throughout,
7 game series, like Zico said, we're talking about a 7 game series where teams only have to focus on you. See, that's the thing. I just want to make this general comment, and I'll let you speak after that, Mike. Is when people talk about playoff series and matchups and everything, when you're in an 82 game season, you might have back to back playing the same team, but then you're on to the next team. So your preparations are different, your focus changes, and the
Mhm.
teams coming in are different. But when you're in a 7 game series and all I have to worry about over the next 7 games is just this one team, these players, the preparations of the other team are different. And that's what Zico brought up is in a 7 game series, their lack of depth.
But that's the thing that we can all agree on is when the playoffs come around, every team doesn't go as deep into their bench. So when they're running a 7-man rotation in the season and those 7 guys are all healthy and those 7 guys are used to those minutes and playing all throughout that 82 game season and they remain healthy in the playoffs, they're already adjusted. You're not adjusting to anything different that you haven't seen from Boston. They're not going deep into their bench until the game's out of hand or if they need some spot minutes here or there to make up for something. But if their starting 5 is healthy and they got those 2 bench guys, they're the team to beat. It doesn't. You're not going to change that.
Agreed.
And
We
I'm not
all
disagreeing with
said
that.
they are the team to beat. What we're talking about, and Zico brought up, is his concern, right? He did say they are the team to beat in the NBA.
Mhm.
But there is some concern with depth because, like you said, they're one injury away from not having the depth they need in the playoffs, right?
I completely agree, but I think that's the case for a lot of teams, especially as you get deeper into the playoffs. Everybody's an injury away. I think that's depends on the injury, right?
There's a lot of guys like I think about on NBA teams right now that are on teams that are not in ideal situations right now that are looking outside of the playoffs or possibly rebuilding. We mentioned Brooklyn is one of them. We mentioned Toronto is one of them. They might have players that they release or waive or trade for and waive, veteran guys that they trade for. Here's another situation, just as an example. Toronto, they have Patty Mills on their team. He's their backup point guard. He's making $6.8 million. I don't think Patty Mills wants to sit on that team if he sees that it's kind of starting to go downhill and the team's not making the playoffs. He's one of those guys I could see getting waived.
You
And
said Patty Mills in Toronto.
I'm sorry, he's in Atlanta.
Oh, Atlanta.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I could see him deciding to like, hey, I'd prefer a buyout and going to sign for another team, which he'd be a great fit in Boston. Another guy, the Utah Jazz have Kelly Olynyk, who is a former Celtic, in his last year of his deal. If the Jazz are on the outside looking in, I could see him also saying, hey, I'd prefer a buyout. I'd rather go play for Danny Ainge, your former Celtics.
If I'm Boston, go back and get Malcolm Brogdon.
Well, I don't think Malcolm Brogdon is gonna take a buyout. He's making 20 million. I don't see it happening.
But I'm saying trade for him again.
I don't
Go
think
get
they can. I don't think they can.
Yeah, I don't know if they can either, but I'm going to read this to you. It'll be a nice transition into our last team here. So, in the 27 previous seasons that they have play by play data, 5 teams have outscored their opponents by at least 10 points per 100% per 100 possessions. 4 of those 5 reached the finals, and 3 of them won the championship. There's 2 teams in the league right now that are doing that. The Celtics are one, and the 76ers are the other.
Love that transition, Mike. That's what I was hoping to get a little more of from you. I love these stats.
So the 76ers, which is the last team in the Atlantic Division, currently the 3rd seed, obviously they are injury prone as well, right? Joel Embiid tends to get injured. When he's healthy, they're great. When he's on, even when he's playing and he goes to the bench, there's a huge fall off. They're 2-5 without Joel Embiid this season. He's missed the last 4 games with that ankle sprain. So they did beat 2 good teams. They beat the Magic and the Rockets last week. But where do we think they are? What do we think they need? Do they need something else? Was the process getting rid of Ben Simmons enough?
I think, by the way, I love Philly. They're one of the teams that I watch. Embiid's one of my favorite players in the NBA. I absolutely love Tyrese Maxey. Talk about, rising to stardom and what he's doing right now. It's amazing. He's one of the funnest players to watch. They need one more. They absolutely need one more. They have expiring contracts that they could trade, multiple ones. I think they're going to be a team. They're one of the teams that wanted OG Anunoby. They just didn't have enough to get him. I don't know who they go for. You kind of need to find someone that fits. I think Nick Nurse is such a great coach that he could kind of make anybody work. But if you're talking about making someone work and winning a title, those are 2 different conversations. So I think they're close. I think they're 1 piece away. I just don't know what that piece is right now off the top of my head.
Omar?
I mean, I still feel Philly's the underachieving team with their performances. Again, I think they're 1 piece away from making that transition into actually competing. But the issue at the end of the day here is really they're just not built to win. They're good regular season team, but come playoff time, they don't have what it takes to make it to the finals, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I think they're a 1-man team, and like you said earlier, once you get into the playoffs, people can really focus and set up and practice for that 1 man. And you don't really do that in the regular season. So agreeing with you, they're definitely built for the regular season. But I think their other big problem is health, like I mentioned earlier. So this season alone, they're 20-5 with Embiid on the floor. 5 of those losses have been within 5 points in the last 5 minutes. So it's all close games. Nobody's beating them or blowing them out when Embiid's playing. But Embiid's not playing all the time. When he's not playing, they're pretty close to awful. And come playoff time, they don't have anyone else. Like Tyrese Maxey's good. Tyrese Maxey's getting better. But I don't think he's enough when you take away Embiid. He's not going to give you enough to get you over the hump. And that's where I think you still have guys or teams like Milwaukee and Boston that are still going to be better come playoff time.
So I'm going to point one thing out. Nick Nurse, former Raptors coach, is now the coach of Philadelphia. They have a lot of expiring contracts. They wanted OG Anunoby. They didn't get him. Can you guys see Nick Nurse pushing the organization to try and go for any of his former players, aka Pascal Siakam, which they have more than enough salaries to match for, and that being any bit of a difference for this team? Something like Joel Embiid, Pascal Siakam, Tobias Harris, Tyrese Maxey, and Kelly Oubre as a starting lineup. Is that enough to win a title?
Well, so who are you trading to make that?
I know that's what I was trying to figure out here.
Robert Morris, Robert Covington. Let's see, that's 28 million right there, and Furkan Korkmaz and draft picks. Gets the deal done.
If you're given
all
so
expiring contracts and draft picks. That's
So
what
you're saying Pascal Siakam for Robert Covington. Who else?
Marcus Morris.
Rakan
Marcus
Cortez, all expiring contracts and draft picks.
Okay.
That gets rid of some of your size, but you bring. I think that makes them better. I think what they're.
Well, they need to add more to the trade because salaries don't work. Was it 3 players? Or you said 4 players. Who's the 4th player?
3 players equal $34.1 million, and Siakam makes 37.8. But if you throw in draft picks, it balances everything out.
Well, now with Marquise Morris, Robert Covington, and Korkmaz, it won't work.
I'm on Fanspo.
I'm on the ESPN. I'm on the ESPN trade machine.
I don't know if you've heard, you can't use the ESPN trade machine. It's actually there's an error going on with it. You can't use it right now. So everybody's using Fanspo instead. So if you use that, it actually is even better. It has all the draft picks that they could trade as well. So trade acceptance, everything. So it's a little easier site to work with. But
Okay, so we said Marcus Morris,
Robert Covington, and
Let's just take GM Zico at his word.
No, hey, I just learned something new today, dude.
Philly has 16 picks that they could trade. So
yeah, and they still can't use them right.
a lot of them are second rounders. And there's ones with protections and stuff. So the value of those trades aren't great. They're solid, but not great. So Toronto has 12 trades, the draft picks that they could trade as well.
Keeping Patrick Beverly around.
Sorry, say that again.
Keeping Patrick Beverly around.
I absolutely would. I like Patrick Beverly. I think he's a good backup point guard to have. He's one of those guys where if you need someone to settle a score for Embiid, he's ready to do it. So why not?
Yeah, but if that's your vocal leader on the team,
yeah,
that's why you're not making it to the finals.
Well, he could be the vocal leader from the bench. I'm fine with Patrick Beverly.
Yeah,
I was just
no. And I'm a fan of Patrick Beverly, but I'm saying is we're talking about getting over the hump, right?
Yeah.
Well, there's one other trade you could also do, and that's to go for Zach LaVine. And he's been rumored to be one of the guys that Philly's going for, but obviously Zach LaVine has been out with an injury for the last month. What do you guys feel about that? Is that enough? Is that like Tyrese Maxey and Zach LaVine in the backcourt next to Oubre and Tobias Harris? Is that doing anything? I feel like it won't. I feel it's like the same thing with the Lakers. It might make them better, but I don't think that's going to win them the title.
Siakam's a better fit there.
I agree.
Yeah, and I think that's a better fit, definitely.
I'm still picking Boston.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I hate to say it, but I am as well right now.
Even with Siakam, Boston's playing basketball really well.
Yeah, I again, right now they're the team that everybody has to play chess against. You've got to make your moves, and I think there's going to be a couple more trades that you might see in the next couple of days. Teams trying to maximize that 1 month avenue of making a trade right at the deadline. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a couple more coming up soon.
Definitely the trade rumors and the trades is something to keep an eye out.
You can get all your trade rumors from Zico and Omar here with their trade machines. You just gotta like and subscribe and listen, and they got you handled. They know what they're doing.
Honestly, that's like one of my favorite things about the NBA. Trade season, trade rumors, players getting waived, signing for certain teams. I think that's a lot of fun. I like team building in general. There are reasons why I like that, which we can get into in another episode. But yeah, I think it's a lot of fun doing that. I think every fan kind of dreams of certain players that might come play for them. I think understanding of what's capable of being done and not being capable of being done is most important. But there's also a lot of politics that go into this. So when you start understanding all of it, it's a lot of fun to read into.
Yeah. According to a YouTube video you made me watch and lose 24 minutes of my life, there's a lot of politics.
There is a lot of politics. There's a lot of politics in basketball, and
Oh, definitely.
yeah, it's they will definitely go into our conspiracy theory episode. And this doesn't go just now, this goes back to when Jordan was playing, when Magic was there and Bird was there. There was a lot of politics that started in the 80s. So once the NBA realized how much money they were going to make, they had to put politics into it, because the worst thing that could happen is having their image be ruined by a high level player. So they needed to protect everything they could to make sure that didn't happen. So,
Well, speaking of that, soon we'll have a little surprise where we'll be able to get some kind of real insight on how the NBA is very soon on one of our episodes.
just announce, come on.
Sounds exciting.
I mean, I've already mentioned that we will be having interviews with NBA players. There are multiple NBA players that we each personally know that we've already reached out to. Omar has the first confirmation of the player that will be doing an interview with us, doing an episode with us. Omar, would you like to announce it?
Yes, former Clipper slash NBA big man Keith Kloss has agreed to join us on our podcast to discuss the NBA and basketball in his career. So we look forward to having Keith on this on our next episode.
And any questions you guys have for him, send it to us.
Absolutely.
We can
Anybody who knows who Keith Kloss is and you have questions, please send it. I know there's going to be some of these young guys who have no clue who he is.
And there's going to be some older guys that are going to ask questions about his infamous time in the NBA. So we'll leave that up to Keith, what he talks about and what he brings up. But there was one thing I wanted to say before I threw that out there, and since we talked about shooting guards, there's a name that I want to throw out there to see your guys' thoughts of where he may fit and if he can make one of these contending teams that are missing a shooting guard. Is Buddy Hield. He's been in so many trade rumors, and obviously he is with playing in Indiana, obviously, but his name's been floating around. Can you guys see him helping as in any trade scenario?
Helping?
Yeah,
absolutely. When you have a guy who's as an elite shooter as he is, I think that it all depends on fit. One thing I don't like is Buddy Hield with the ball in his hands too much. I like Buddy Hield in catch and shoot situations. So obviously being next to Halliburton, it should be an ideal fit. Right now it's not for whatever reason. I don't know if it's because he's unhappy or the team isn't seeing eye to eye with him. Maybe it's defensive reasons. But I can absolutely see him going to a team and helping. He does have a big contract, so teams will have to match that. I don't know if he's in the last year of his contract. I'm pulling that up right now. He's in the last year of his contract. He's making 19 million. That's one of those players that could absolutely help a team, especially with that contract.
Coming off the books next year, so it's kind of like a 1-year rental.
I would expect him to be traded. And it could. Indiana is one of the teams that's also interested in Pascal Siakam, and Buddy Hield could benefit playing in Toronto next to Scotty Barnes and Emmanuel Quickly. So I could see it happening. But again, that's the kind of team where if he goes to Toronto, I would see him wanting to get bought out rather than stay in Toronto. So it's hard because he's on that expiring deal. I could see him being more as like a filler for a team that's, trading away an elite player like Pascal. So maybe even keep an eye on Buddy Hield as a player that's going to get bought out. Maybe goes to Boston.
Well, do you see him going to Philly? Can he help Philly?
He could help Philly. The one thing I don't like about him in Philly is Nick Nurse likes defensive wings. It's something he perfected in Toronto. They had a lot of long athletic guys. He kind of steered clear of guys like Buddy Hield, who were not known for defense and specialists in only one thing. So I don't know if that's like top of his list, but if it happens when they can't get anything else, I'm sure he'll find a way to use him. I think they'll probably use him off the bench more than they will as a starter. Just because, again, I know how Nick Nurse runs his lineups and focuses on defense. So, yeah, I could see him helping a team. I just don't know which one. I honestly could see him helping the Lakers too, just spreading the floor for LeBron and Anthony Davis. But
Are
again,
you trading D'Angelo Russell for Buddy Hield?
no, I kind of need a little more. If I'm trading D'Angelo Russell, I want Zach LaVine, and I think D'Angelo Russell is going to get you Zach LaVine. I'm really focused as a Laker fan on Zach LaVine. I know it's not going to help us win a title, but I think that's the best chance we have considering every other option.
Would you rather have Levine or DeRozan?
I'd rather have LaVine because he's more of a shooter. DeRozan, I feel like DeRozan would be really good on the Knicks too, by the way. And honestly, he'd be really good in Miami, that's another team we didn't spend enough time talking about. He'd be really good in Miami. A guy like a team that allows multiple players to control the ball. It's not one player, like whoever gets the ball brings it up kind of situation. And I feel like with the Lakers, he's not going to get that just because LeBron does dominate the ball quite a bit. I don't think he fits there. So I think
for the Lakers to be successful this year, they just got to get more shooters, more catch and shoot guys.
And Zach LaVine would be right now. He's the best option. He's the best.
But he also wants to score off the dribble.
But that's the other thing, Omar. And see, like that's what I like about Zach LaVine. I thought about this. Like we just saw LeBron in the final seconds multiple times this season, either make a pass or take a shot that he had no chance of making. So,
and he got cheated.
True, exactly. So imagine having one more guy where you put the ball in his hands in a last second situation that you feel confident enough, this guy's going to hit it. And I feel like Zach LaVine will do that for the Lakers. Because he can create his own shot. And like, that's the difference between like Zach LaVine, like Buddy Hield's a better shooter than Zach LaVine. But in those last second situations where you can give somebody the ball and get us a bucket, I think Zach LaVine would be ideal. And I think the Lakers would be a lot harder to guard in that situation.
So I think over the next couple of weeks, we need to set up an episode where it's Zeke. We call it Agent Zico's take on potential trades, because I know as a Laker fan you want Zach LaVine, but I'm prepared to throw so many different names at you to see how they benefit your Lakers. And if I as a Laker fan, I wouldn't mind going after Brogdon.
Oh, I love Brogdon. That's why I mentioned him. Like Brogdon and who are we talking about from Brooklyn? Spencer
Dinwiddie.
Those are the kind of like backup point guards that like you said it, like you nail on the head. Sean Livingston, even like Andre Iguodala to an extent, Bruce Brown, like those are the kind of guys. Like if I have that as my backup, I am stoked. Like that covers so much because they can guard 1 through 3. You could fill them in any spot. So again, one guy is injured from the 1 through 3, you could fill them in wherever you need. It's not like they're limited to one position. So I love guys like that as backup point guards. So, and the Warriors really nailed that when they had Sean Livingston and Andre Iguodala. So, Mike, you got quiet, Mike.
Those are all pipe names. Yeah, the Lakers are. I think they overextended for that in-season tournament. Got their goal. I think it's Denver, Boston, pending injuries.
Well, the Lakers are in a situation where they can make deals. Like I think some people assume they're like, oh, we're stuck. Well, January 15th is another date to keep an eye on. That's when teams can trade players that they signed in the offseason. So we're 13 days away from that. And that makes D'Angelo Russell, Rui Hachimura, and even Austin Reeves. I prefer to keep Austin Reeves, but it allows them to trade those guys that they signed. So I think that's the date that they were waiting for. I think that's the date where you might see a Zach LaVine trade happen. And I think the Lakers will probably jump to make one right away just to see how the team gels and if they need to make any more trades at the deadline. So there's going to be a lot of teams in that situation. And D'Angelo Russell and Hachimura's and Reeves contracts are very desirable to many teams. You know, that's 12 to 17 million dollar range. Teams love that. That's something you could use. So
all to play catch up to the Boston Celtics. So we'll see how it goes.
It's definitely going to be interesting. The next couple of weeks are definitely going to be interesting. I personally don't expect it to be a quiet off season. I mean, a quiet
trade deadline.
Trade deadline. I meant.
We got you.
I expect to be a couple.
So the big question is, we're doing this a day later than we normally do. Is Omar going to have to do push-ups?
I don't know. Let's find out.
Gotta put that phone closer to the speaker. We don't hear it ringing.
Who are you calling, Omar?
I can't.
You can't see it.
Oh, Frank.
Watch Frank not come through.
He ain't picking up.
He's sleeping, bro.
He's in a basketball league somewhere.
Or he's cleaning up Disneyland right now.
Dang, his first time? It's going to voicemail? Yep, it's over.
Yeah, I got to give you one more. You know, he works nights, so I took my chances. Give me one more chance, and then you guys can get me for the push-ups.
Double or nothing.
Double or nothing. Okay. Let's see.
Frank, we appreciate you not picking up.
Double or nothing. Okay, let's see. So I got to take my chances.
He's going to call Zico right now, see if Zico picks up.
Hold on. We got to call somebody that might be able to comment, right?
Well, what are they commenting on?
Hold on.
Call a Boston fan. You got a Celtics fan in your
No,
role?
I'm actually going to bring in a Knicks fan.
Oh,
I'm bringing a Knicks fan.
That's it. It's a wrap, guys.
What on, my brother?
What's good, Nick?
How you doing, man?
I'm good, bro. Hey, happy New
Bailed out.
Year to you and the family, bro.
Absolutely. Appreciate you, brother.
Hey, question for you. You know, being from New York,
What do you think?
what do you think about that trade the Knicks pulled with Toronto?
I do like it defensively and offensively. The kid is the OG is a good asset, good role player. But I feel like we need one more key piece. I mean, we lost a lot of offense with that, but defensively we were straight. So I mean, I feel like it's gonna like brighten it up a little bit, maybe just a little bit, because players don't have to fight for their roles that much. It's just OGs, not like Quickly and RJ. But I like it for now. I think the Knicks got a chance that they just really play hard. They got to really play hard. They got a chance. I would say they got a chance. And the East. That's it.
It's like
Well,
who's he like better, Murray or Mitchell?
Oh,
You mean Jamal Murray or Donovan Mitchell?
no, either Donovan Mitchell or DeJounte Murray.
I like Donovan. He's tough. He's a dog.
for the Knicks though. For
For
that
the Knicks.
piece,
Does
we're
he
talking-
fit the Knicks?
Nah, I don't think he fit the Knicks, bro. I don't think he fit the Knicks, but I do like his game. But I don't think he fit the Knicks style play. New York is it's a different animal. He's from the city, but I don't know, bro. I don't know, because sometimes he be on some, selfish shit. I like what we have so far. I feel like we're just missing another key piece like a Bogdanovich or another sharpshooter. I don't know if they could steal Zach from somewhere. I don't know, but defensively, they just missing like another spark off the bench, and they all right.
Nick,
Well, Nick-
Nick, if you could pick between DeJounte Murray, Malcolm Brogdon, Spencer Dinwiddie, or
Buddy Hield.
Mitchell, who are you getting?
for the Knicks.
Spencer Dinwiddie, say again, Michael Brogdon, Spencer Dinwiddie, who else?
DeJounte Murray.
DeJounte Murray. That's tough.
You got to fill in that quickly role. Someone's got to fill in that role.
Yeah, someone got to fill in that quickly role, but damn, I like Brogdon, DeJounte, who's the third person?
Spencer Dinwiddie, Brogdon.
Spencer Dinwiddie, Brogdon.
I like Spencer. Only because he could come off the bench. Everybody else is going. These young guys, they feel like they're untouchable sometimes. I feel like Spencer could fill in that role.
Will the Brooklyn
Spencer.
Nets make a trade with the Knicks, though?
I don't think so. Not at all.
Hey, spoken like a true New Yorker, man.
You know what I'm saying? Not at all. I ain't gonna lie to you. They gonna go down. They gonna go down without a fight. For real.
Well, Nick, I appreciate you taking the phone call, bro. I'm gonna holler at you tomorrow.
Yeah, you saved
I
them some
appreciate it,
push-ups.
man.
All right, bro. All right.
Oh,
I tried Frank because he's from New York, since we focused on the New York team today. But Frank didn't come
called
through.
Marley too, but you wouldn't have answered.
I know Kamani don't pick up unless I'm talking about some shoes that he's trying to sell. But that's what I got for you guys tonight.
love it. It's late.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for this episode today. It was an awesome one. Anything you guys want to add before we go?
Nope. I'm excited to see these potential trades happen.
Mike,
Watch.
how are we finishing the episode off?
What are we doing?
How are we finishing the episode off?
Oh, that's Omar's thing. I just want to let everyone know that everything I say on these, I stand by. No one's crazy. You got comments? Go ahead and put those comments in there.
Yeah, next week we will read the mean tweets for Mike because I got a lot of them. We forgot to talk about them today. My apologies. We kind of trailed off and forgot about them. We will read them in the next episode. So if you got more, send them.
Yeah, I have no problem reading tweets from all the haters.
Definitely, we got to
Mike,
read.
some of them are your family, so
Woohoo!
I'll tell you in the next episode.
Oh, I can't wait.
Okay. All right. Thanks so much,
All
guys.
right. Good night, everybody.
Good night.